Hello, this is a quick look at the ASUSTOR AS3204T 4-bay network attached storage device. It's quite a nice looking device, fairly plain, not too weighty without the hard drives. Around the back, giant fan, a couple of USB 3 ports, HDMI and a gigabit port. And then around the front you've got status indicator lights as well as another USB port and an IR receiver for a remote. It's got quite a nice little flashy design on the front. This is a toolless design, so you can just use your hands to get the box open, and this has 4 bays for SATA drives. You see there's all 4 and they just slide in there, clip into the controller, and then you just have to screw them in securely. Now, to help with that you do get a box of bits, and that box of bits does include some additional toolless screws. You're going to need 4 screws for each drive. It just slots straight in. 2 screws on the left hand side, 2 screws on the right hand side, so pretty much the same as if you're installing into a PC. When you first fire the NAS up, you'll get this welcome screen. You can do one-click setup or custom setup. I'll just show you the custom setup just so you can see the various options. So you've got a server name, new password for admin and confirm password, so very important you get something that you're not going to forget, although you can reset this quite easily if you need to. So you've got your time zones and date and time format. So I'm not American, let's get this day, month, there we go. And we can get it synchronized with a time server, which is quite handy. So you've got some network settings. Now I've only got one hard drive in at the moment, so you can see there's only a single option. If we take a look, you've got various options here, so take a look at each of these. You might need to research them, and it will depend of course how many different hard drives you've got in. I've only got the one installed at the moment. So this will take a few minutes. As you can see, it's just going to run through the various setups. So it's got to sort out the hard drive, so whatever you put in hard drive wise, unless you're upgrading from another ASUSTOR NAS, you will lose the information on there, so make sure you're using either a fresh hard drive. So if you want to use information that's on an old hard drive, you're better off putting new hard drives in this and then copying the information over separately, otherwise you might lose your data. Once it's finished setting up and you get logged in, you get this initial help screen, and this will just give you a little tour, lets you know what's going on. Now I've actually owned an ASUSTOR NAS before, so I'm pretty familiar with all this, but I'll just skip through a couple of bits just so you can see what comes up. And let's close this down, I'll give you a proper tour myself. So just taking a look at the App Central console, this is where you can install apps. So you can see it starts off with no apps installed at all, it's just the basic settings and menus, things like that. And we can take a look at all apps, or you can go down to top apps, just see what most people install, things like Plex, latest apps, and you can also look at the various categories depending on what you're using this for, because of course this can be used for a huge range of purposes. So if you're going to be using this with your TV, which I'll demonstrate shortly, you're going to want to install the portal. What's nice about the App Central is that it will check what else needs installing. So you can see it needs a few other bits installing. So when I click install, it will sort itself out and get everything installed that it needs to. You don't need to worry about it. Now if we just have a little scroll through, see what else is going on. So that's preparing. So it's also got things like Kodi 16, so we'll get bits of that installing. You can use this as a surveillance center, so that allows you to use compatible IP cameras and set this up to record from those cameras. I don't have any compatible cameras, otherwise I'd give it a go, but that's quite a cool little feature. And then you've got this virtual box system as well, so it can actually act as a virtual box and you can install OSs on it, run different OSs one at a time. And there's all sorts of other options. You can see content management options. I'm sure you'll recognize some of these. I don't know all of these different apps, but I recognize Drupal, for example. Let's have a look at downloads. So you've got downloads, games, NZB drone, NZB get, sick rage, all sorts on here. Definitely well worth a big exploration. It can even be an e-learning box. You can have a look, and it's got a tutor on there. I can't say I've used these. Moodle, I've heard of Moodle, it's supposed to be quite good. So huge variety. If you just go to all apps, you'll see absolutely massive variety of apps on there. You're going to have to spend some time having a little look through. Some you'll recognise, some I'm sure you won't. lots on there, gives you lots of options. So if we just take a look at some of the other options, you've got access control. This allows you to control who can access your NAS, and you can add different users. Very useful either in a household or office. Activity monitor just gives you an overall graph of what's going on with various aspects of the system. So if something's not quite going quite right, or you want to check how much space you've got left, things like that, take a look there. App Central we've covered. You've got online help, backup, restore. This is really handy actually. You can use this to back up other machines, other drives, websites, things like that. I use this on my existing NAS to back up websites, for example. You've got File Explorer, so you can check out the various drives that you've got and if you've got things downloaded. Under Services, you've got all sorts of services, works with Windows, Mac, FTP servers, absolutely loads of options. I mean, this thing will do pretty much anything you want. So under Settings, you've got VPN Settings, so this can actually go out through the internet via a VPN. So under Ease of Access, you've got Cloud Connect, and rather than having to enter IP address, you can add your own cloud ID. So that might be, I don't know, my ASUSTOR at ASUSTOR or something like that. Easy router setup, we'll check now at the moment, and there you go. So if I want to easily add or remove port forwarding, I can do so without having to go into my router. I simply click Add and select the service, and it will set that up with the router. Really good service that. So under Storage Manager, you get an idea of what's going on with your hard drives. I've only got one 200 gig disk at the moment. You can see it's not very full at all, but there's no faulty disks allowed because I've got no other disks in. Now this particular NAS will take 4 drives in total, and each drive can be 8 terabytes. So in theory, you could have all 4 drives, and if they weren't backing up to each other, if they weren't in a RAID array, you could have up to 32 terabytes of space, which is a huge amount. Plugging this into a telly gives you a complete media center. You get a nice large button menu, and you can use an IR remote, or you can plug in a USB keyboard mouse, as I've done. That's why I've got a little mouse cursor and I can type things up. So you've got access to a full browser, and that allows you to surf the web. You've got access to Netflix, you've got access to Kodi as well. It's Kodi version 16 at the time of review. That runs really well, and of course your media is kept on the drive, so it can scan it automatically, keep that up to date. You can see the browser works fine, it's just Chrome. If you've launched Netflix, that's not a dedicated app though, that's actually the website. The YouTube app though is dedicated, you'll see that in a second. So hopefully you can appreciate the ASUSTOR NAS is a very versatile bit of kit, and for those looking for a huge amount of storage space who've got the cash to splash on 8 terabyte drives, you can get a massive chunk of space. So this is just as at home in your office as it would be in your living room. I hope you found this overview useful. Thanks for watching.